You'll never amount to anything without us. My mom's voice, sharp as shattered glass, echoed in my memory the night she hurled my clothes onto the porch, the slam of the door punctuating her disdain. 17. Empty pockets, no safety net, just a duffel bag crammed with a few worn items, a cell phone clinging to its last sliver of battery, and the low, mocking laughter of my stepfather filtering through the window. Before we go any further, please hit that subscribe button, give this a thumbs up, and share if you've ever felt underestimated. This story will resonate with every buried emotion you've carried for years. That night, my world became the cramped interior of my beat-up 2002 Honda Civic, one window stubbornly refusing to roll down, the heater a distant, forgotten luxury. My laptop, cracked and sluggish, with a battery that barely held a charge, became my most prized possession. Not for its monetary value, it was practically worthless, but because it housed the fragile beginnings of my future. A few lines of code, a dream I clung to with fierce determination. My folks had always dismissed dreams as a pastime for the privileged. Get a job at the gas station, like your stepbrother, Kevin, they'd urged. He's got stability, my dad would emphasize. Kevin, contentedly stocking shelves of chips and losing himself in video games every night, was their benchmark of success. They remained oblivious to my late nights at a dimly lit warehouse on the outskirts of Philadelphia. The meager wages funneled directly into the patchy Wi-Fi of a rundown motel. They knew nothing of the 3 app launches that had crashed and burned within days of their release, each failure a silent, private sting. But I didn't quit. 5 years crawled by, each day a testament to my quiet defiance, and they remained in the dark. The guy they'd ridiculed, kicked out, and systematically excluded from every family gathering was now meticulously building something that would eventually redefine their reality. Holiday dinners became a distant memory. Birthday calls ceased. I watched from the periphery as Kevin, basking in their approval, bought a used Ford Mustang, its glossy paint job plastered across his Facebook feed, complete with my mom's heart emojis. My own posts remained in the digital void, ignored, until last week. My younger cousin, oblivious to the family rift, innocently posted a photo of me leaning against a sleek, black Tesla, the caption proclaiming, "My cousin just bought a $1.7 million house cash." Suddenly, my phone detonated. 27 missed calls, 13 text messages, all from my mom. Even Kevin chimed in with a curt, "Bro, is that real?" I left them all unread. But then, last night, something shifted the landscape entirely. It began with a dinner invitation, an olive branch I never anticipated. The restaurant reeked of opulence, the menu hinting at a $500 per plate minimum. A bitter laugh almost escaped my lips when I saw who had made the reservation. Dad, Mom, and Kevin, the very trio who had once deemed me a waste of oxygen. Now, they awaited me at a swanky rooftop steakhouse, a place their combined income likely couldn't touch. I made a point of arriving fashionably late. Black suit, Rolex glinting under the soft lighting, the kind of entrance that turned heads. As I walked in, Kevin's jaw visibly slackened, his eyes wide with disbelief. My mom, a strained, artificial smile plastered on her face, greeted me as if she'd forgotten her earlier pronouncements of my impending poverty. "Wow, you look successful," she managed, the word tasting like ash in her mouth. I didn't bother with pleasantries or a chair. Leaning in slightly, I simply stated, "You wanted to talk." Kevin fumbled with some awkward small talk. "So, what exactly do you do now?" The tension in the air was palpable, a thick, suffocating blanket. I could see the sheen of sweat beading on his forehead beneath his cheap blazer. "I build things," I replied evenly, taking a slow sip of the $80 scotch they had presumptuously ordered for me. "Things people actually use." My dad, ever the smooth talker, interjected, "We always knew you were smart, just misunderstood." Misunderstood? Was that their euphemism for throwing their teenage son out onto the street? I kept my composure, a faint smile playing on my lips. But then came the real reason for this unexpected reunion. "So we were thinking," my mom began, her eyes darting nervously towards Kevin. Maybe you could help us out. You know, your stepbrother's in a bit of a bind. The Mustang payments, some credit cards. And we're behind on the house." There it was, the naked truth. They didn't want me. They wanted my money. I looked each of them directly in the eye and said something I had rehearsed in my mind countless times over the years. Why would I help people who taught me that I was worth nothing? My dad froze, his usual bluster evaporating. Mom blinked rapidly, her forced smile finally cracking. Kevin looked like he'd taken a solid punch to the gut. I stood to leave, the expensive scotch barely touched. But just as I turned my back, my mom's hand clamped onto my wrist, her whisper sending a chill down my spine. "If you don't help us, we'll tell everyone how you really got that money." My heart slammed against my ribs, because the thing was, they knew something no one else did. And if that secret saw the light of day, everything I had painstakingly built could crumble into dust. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. "What did you just say?" I whispered, my gaze locked on hers. She leaned in closer, her voice a low, venomous hiss. "You think we don't remember? You think we forgot what happened before you left?" My mind raced, the comfortable amnesia I had cultivated around that night shattering. The night I left home for good. The one memory I had buried deep, praying it would never resurface. But now they were weaponizing it against me. Kevin smirked, that same smug, petty smirk that had always ignited a white-hot rage within me. "Should have wiped the security footage better, bro," he muttered under his breath. Security footage. They still had it. They still possessed the only concrete proof of what I did, what I took. I sank back into my chair, the carefully constructed control I had exuded moments ago dissolving. Everything, the company, the mansion, the curated collection of cars, all balanced precariously on this secret I had foolishly believed was long gone. Mom offered a saccharine smile. "You help us out quietly, no questions asked, and we make sure that footage stays buried." My brain felt like it was on fire, my skin clammy and cold, because that video didn't just show me breaking into Dad's office. It showed what I stole. Not cash, not jewelry. I stole the prototype, the one Dad had conveniently claimed was lost in a fire. The same prototype I had used as the foundation for my billion-dollar software empire. I should have walked away that night, never looked back. But I hadn't, and now they held the one piece of leverage that could destroy me. I leaned in, forcing my face to remain impassive, and said, "Fine, you'll get what you want." But as I walked away from that opulent dinner table, one thought consumed me. If they wanted to play dirty, they had no idea what I was capable of now, because what they didn't know was, I had already set a trap. And the moment they tried to spring theirs, everything would backfire spectacularly. The next morning, I sat before my wall-sized monitor, meticulously sifting through every digital breadcrumb of my past. Emails, old hard drive backups, even a long-forgotten hidden cloud storage folder I hadn't accessed in years. The one labeled failsafe. Inside, a digital time capsule. A complete chain of messages, meticulously time-stamped screenshots, crystal-clear audio recordings, all from back then. All painting a vivid picture of exactly how that prototype had truly come to be. Here's the twist they never saw coming. That prototype wasn't my dad's brainchild. It was mine. I had pitched the concept to him when I was 16, sketching out the initial designs, coding a rough, rudimentary version in my spare time. He had laughed, dismissing it as cute. Then, 3 months later, he had attempted to patent it under his own name, only to be thwarted by his utter lack of understanding of the underlying technology. I, however, understood it intimately. That night, when I stole it, I wasn't stealing anything. I was simply reclaiming what was rightfully mine. And now I had irrefutable proof. The problem? The security footage, devoid of context, undeniably looked like theft. It had the potential to obliterate my reputation. So, I had to move first, faster, smarter. I picked up my phone and dialed Sarah, my only true ally from those bleak early days, now a highly respected cybersecurity analyst at a top agency. She owed me a debt born from witnessing firsthand the casual cruelty of my parents. Still good at making problems disappear? I asked, a hint of a smile in my voice. Her laughter on the other end was as sharp and confident as ever. Who are we targeting? I texted her the address of the house, my old prison, followed by a single, concise sentence. There's a drive hidden under the floorboards. Get it today. By noon, a terse text message blinked on my screen. Got it. And then, a follow-up that made my blood run cold. Guess what? It's encrypted, but not well. This drive has more than just the video. It has everything. Your dad's secret patents, financial fraud, even fake signatures. My hands trembled as I read her words. They hadn't just wanted to blackmail me into silence. They wanted me to remain complicit in their own web of criminal activity. And now I held all the cards. But I wasn't just going to defend myself. I was going to dismantle their carefully constructed empire, publicly, legally, and permanently. So, I called my lawyer and set the date for a family meeting they would never, ever forget. But what unfolded at that meeting, even I didn't see it coming. The day of the family reckoning arrived with an unnerving swiftness. My pieces were meticulously arranged on the board. The damning drive containing their secrets, my unflappable lawyer seated beside me. A comprehensive plan meticulously crafted to dismantle the fraudulent empire they had built on a foundation of lies. My parents would finally taste the bitter isolation of being on the outside, the very marginalization they had so casually inflicted upon me. I arrived at the designated location, a high-end law office, the kind they would never dream of affording on their own, which I had quietly rented for the day. The air in the room crackled with a palpable tension the moment I walked in. Mom, Dad, and Kevin were already seated around the polished mahogany table, each sporting the pinched, ashen expressions of those who had just received devastating news. They were anticipating something small, a hushed negotiation, perhaps a few favors exchanged to ensure my continued silence. They remained blissfully unaware of the carefully orchestrated storm I was about to unleash. My dad, ever the picture of entitled composure, didn't even acknowledge my presence with a direct gaze. Instead, he meticulously adjusted his silk tie and cleared his throat, the sound echoing in the otherwise silent room. So, he began, his tone oozing a false sense of control. How can we make this go away, son? A mirthless laugh escaped my lips. His words, so casually dismissive, felt utterly hollow. He still clung to the illusion of his power, the ingrained belief that he could manipulate any situation to his advantage. But this time the script had flipped. I offered a cold, almost predatory smile and slid a thick file across the gleaming surface of the table towards them. You don't get to make it go away, I stated, my voice low and steady. Not this time. This time you listen. My mom's eyes flickered nervously to the file, then back to my face, a dawning horror creeping into her expression. She knew. Deep down, she knew exactly what was coming. What is this? She asked, her voice betraying a tremor she desperately tried to conceal. You remember the night you kicked me out? I began slowly, deliberately, letting each word hang heavy in the air. Well, you didn't just destroy my life. You destroyed your own. I stood, reaching for my phone, and with a tap, projected the contents of the recovered drive onto a large screen mounted on the wall. It wasn't just the security footage they had intended to use against me that filled the display. I pressed play, and their faces contorted in horror as the screen illuminated a damning montage of their own fraudulent activities. The clandestine offshore bank accounts, the meticulously forged documents, the intricate web of deceit they had spun for years. My father's face, usually flushed with a self-satisfied arrogance, drained of color as the footage laid bare his transgressions. The illegal patents he had brazenly stolen from me, the accounts he had surreptitiously opened in my name to siphon funds into his own pockets, the calculated manipulation he had wielded over everyone around him for decades. And then, to deliver the final, crushing blow, I pulled up another file, an encrypted message from my old, trusted team, the one I had worked with in the shadows, far from their prying eyes. They had meticulously tracked every illicit transaction, every suspicious movement. This was no longer just about personal betrayal. This was a declaration of war. Mom gasped, her knuckles white as she clutched the edge of the table, the full weight of the impending consequences crashing down upon her. You wouldn't dare. But I didn't stop there. I stood tall, my gaze sweeping across each of their stunned faces in turn. You didn't think I knew, did you? You didn't think I could build something bigger than your petty little empire. I didn't just survive you, I surpassed you. And now, I'm going to make damn sure the world knows exactly who you are. I turned to my lawyer, a silent command in my eyes. Everything's ready. Release it. In an instant, the digital files were unleashed, hurtling towards the eager inboxes of journalists across the nation. A media firestorm began to brew, and within hours, the meticulously constructed facade of my parents' lives, built on decades of lies and criminal activity, began to crumble publicly, their names dragged through the digital mud. They were no longer the untouchable figures they had once believed themselves to be, the powerful, respected parents who thought they could control every facet of my existence. And then came the quiet satisfaction of walking out of that sterile office, leaving my family behind in the wreckage of their own making. They were left in a state of utter disbelief, scrambling to contain the cascading fallout of my revelations. I had done more than just expose them. I had reclaimed my power. I had shown the world the true villains in this story, and it wasn't me. But what I hadn't fully anticipated was the profound sense of liberation that washed over me, the exquisite relief of finally being free from their shadow, no longer needing their validation or fearing their judgment. And as my phone continued to vibrate with messages from people who had once turned a blind eye to my plight, all I could think was one simple, powerful truth. Sometimes, revenge isn't about destruction. It's about revealing who you truly are, unburdened by the lies others have tried to impose upon you. Without their suffocating influence, the narrative I had once believed would forever be defined by their cruelty was now firmly in my own hands. And it wasn't just a tale of betrayal anymore. It was a testament to resilience, a chronicle of strength forged in the crucible of adversity. And as for my family, they would never forget the day I unequivocally demonstrated who held the power all along. In the aftermath of the exposed truth, my life underwent a seismic shift. My phone became a relentless buzzing entity, inundated with calls from media outlets across the country clamoring for interviews, and a sudden resurgence of acquaintances eager to express belated sympathy and admiration. Yet, amidst this whirlwind of attention, an unexpected emptiness settled within me. The singular goal I had relentlessly pursued for years had been achieved. The empire of my parents, built on a foundation of deceit and manipulation, had begun its inevitable collapse. Their assets were frozen, a cascade of investigations into their extensive financial malfeasance had commenced, and the once revered family name now echoed with scandal. Kevin, stripped of his gas-guzzling Mustang and the prospect of a life cushioned by parental wealth, made several desperate attempts to contact me, his messages a pathetic litany of hollow apologies and promises of reform. But my resolve remained unyielding. Their transgressions had cut too deep, the years spent under the weight of their disdain too long. I had no room for forgiveness. Sarah emerged as my closest confidant during this tumultuous period. Her unwavering support proved invaluable. Beyond her instrumental role in unearthing the crucial evidence, She became a true friend, someone who had recognized my worth from the outset. We often spent evenings in quiet conversation, dissecting the unfolding events and mapping out my future trajectory. I felt a compelling need to move forward, to create something new, untainted by the shadows of my past. My company continued its meteoric rise. The software, the very core of which was the stolen prototype, had become a ubiquitous force in the tech world. No one was calling it cute anymore. Investors, once hesitant, now lined up, offering lucrative deals. But my perspective had been irrevocably altered. The bitter lessons learned from my own family had instilled in me a profound appreciation for integrity and ethical business practices. I began to channel my resources into philanthropic endeavors, establishing a foundation to support aspiring young programmers from underprivileged backgrounds. I wanted to provide them with the very opportunities one had been denied. One evening, my lawyer called. The investigations into my parents were nearing their conclusion. The amassed evidence was more than sufficient to warrant serious charges. He inquired if I wished to be present for the verdict. Initially, I wavered. A part of me craved to witness their downfall, but another, more weary part of me simply longed to turn the page. Ultimately, I chose not to attend. I had relinquished my grip on the past. Let the justice system determine their fate. My own form of retribution had already been exacted. I had proven my worth to them and to the world, and that held far more weight than any courtroom sentence. My focus now lay squarely on the future, on the individuals who had stood by me and believed in me. And in this new chapter, there was no room for lingering resentment or bitterness, only gratitude for the transformative power of the experiences that had shaped me. As the months bled into years, the media frenzy surrounding my family gradually subsided. The legal proceedings dragged on, but I consciously distanced myself from the spectacle, choosing instead to channel my energy into the continued expansion of my company. We launched a series of groundbreaking projects, broadened our team, and ventured into the global market. I now found myself at the helm of a thriving enterprise, surrounded by a team of brilliant individuals who shared my vision and values. The atmosphere within the company was a stark contrast to the cutthroat world of my parents, where greed and deception had reigned supreme. Here, honesty, transparency, and mutual respect were the cornerstones of our success. I often found myself reflecting on those lonely nights in the dilapidated Honda, the biting cold and the gnawing despair, but the memories no longer evoked pain. They served as a constant reminder of the arduous journey I had undertaken and the immense distance I had traveled. Sarah remained my unwavering pillar of support. Our friendship deepened with each passing day, transcending the professional realm. We could talk for hours about anything and everything, sharing our hopes, fears, and dreams. Her sharp intellect and boundless optimism were a constant source of inspiration. One day, she broached the delicate subject of reconciliation with my family. I hesitated, the old wounds still tender. Yet, a flicker of hope for redemption still flickered within me. My thoughts gravitated towards my younger cousin, the one who had inadvertently triggered the chain of events with her innocent social media post. She had always possessed a kind and genuine spirit. I decided to reach out. To my surprise, she responded immediately. We spoke for hours, a cathartic exchange of emotions. She confided in me the difficulty of navigating the family turmoil, confessing her admiration for my achievements. That conversation felt like a breath of fresh air. It reminded me that not all my relatives were cut from the same cloth as my parents and Kevin. Over time, I cautiously began to reconnect with other members of my extended family. It was a slow and delicate process, fraught with awkwardness, but gradually, our relationships began to heal. I learned that it was unfair to condemn an entire lineage for the sins of a few. Life moved on. My company flourished. I was surrounded by loyal friends, and I began to rediscover the simple joys of life. The past remained a part of me, but it no longer defined me. The lessons I had gleaned from it, the importance of self-worth, unwavering determination, and the courage to rise above adversity, became the guiding principles of my present. And perhaps most importantly, I learned that true success isn't measured in material wealth or power, but in integrity, compassion, and the ability to remain true to yourself, regardless of the circumstances. Years later, my company had solidified its position as a global leader in its industry. We were pioneers of innovative technologies that improved lives around the world. I took immense pride in having cultivated not just a successful business, but a collective of individuals united by a shared vision. My relationship with my extended family continued to mend. I maintained a close connection with my cousin and several other relatives. My parents and Kevin, however, remained a closed chapter. The courts had delivered their judgment, and they had faced the consequences of their actions. I felt neither triumph nor pity, only a quiet sense of closure. That chapter of my life was finally, irrevocably, over. One day, Sarah suggested a vacation. I initially resisted, my ingrained work ethic pushing me to decline. But she insisted, and I relented. We embarked on a journey to the breathtaking landscapes of the Swiss Alps. The crisp mountain air, the stunning vistas, and the tranquility of nature allowed me to truly unwind and disconnect from the relentless demands of my professional life. It was there, amidst the majestic peaks, that I finally discovered inner peace. I realized that true happiness wasn't found in material possessions or the pursuit of vengeance, but in the simple act of pursuing your passions, surrounding yourself with genuine connections, and living in harmony with yourself. Upon my return, I approached my work with renewed vigor. We embarked on a wave of ambitious new projects, and my company continued to expand. I began to accept invitations to speak at conferences, sharing my experiences and inspiring aspiring entrepreneurs. I wanted to demonstrate that even from the depths of despair, it was possible to rise and build something extraordinary. One evening, I received a call from my cousin. My mother had fallen gravely ill and wished to speak with me. Initially, I felt a surge of hesitation. Did I truly want to re-engage with her after all that had transpired? But then, I remembered her words, "You'll never amount to anything without us," and I realized how wrong she had been. My success was not because of them, but in spite of them. And now, as she faced her own mortality, I decided to extend a hand. Not for her sake, but for my own. To finally release the last vestiges of the past and move forward, unburdened. The meeting with my mother took place in a sterile hospital room. She appeared frail and weary, the vibrant energy I remembered replaced by a quiet resignation. In her eyes, I saw not the familiar arrogance, but a profound sadness and regret. We spoke for a long time. She offered a tearful apology for her actions, recounting the difficulty of coming to terms with her mistakes and their devastating consequences. I listened, searching my heart for even a flicker of compassion. It wasn't easy, but with each word, the bitterness began to recede. I realized that she, too, had been a victim of her own ambitions and prejudices. As our conversation drew to a close, she made a final plea to help Kevin. Since his release from prison, he had struggled to find employment and had fallen into old habits. Initially, I refused. He needed to bear the consequences of his choices. But my mother's pleas were desperate, and I eventually relented. Not out of forgiveness, but out of a desire to ease her suffering in her final days. I contacted Kevin and offered him a position in one of my companies, a chance to start anew. It was a controversial decision, met with skepticism from many of my friends and colleagues. But I felt it was the right thing to do, not for them but for myself, to fully sever the ties to the past and move forward with a clear conscience. Over time, Kevin began to change. He worked diligently, proving himself to be a responsible and dedicated employee. Our relationship remained professional, but a newfound respect emerged between us. My mother slowly began to recover. Our meetings became more frequent, filled with conversation about everything and nothing. We reminisced about my childhood, shared our thoughts and feelings. I began to see beyond the hardened exterior I had always known, recognizing a vulnerable and lonely woman who had simply wanted the best for her children, but had expressed that desire in a flawed and often destructive way. This entire experience taught me invaluable lessons. I learned that forgiveness isn't weakness, but strength, that compassion is more powerful than revenge, and that true happiness lies not in tearing down your enemies, but in building your own life, brick by brick, with integrity and purpose. Now, when I look back, I see not only the pain and disappointment, but also a long and arduous journey of growth and self-discovery. And I am grateful for every lesson learned, even the most painful ones. They shaped me into the person I am today, resilient, independent, and capable of empathy. The story of my revenge had transformed into a story of forgiveness, and that, I realized, was far more valuable. In the years that followed, a sense of quiet contentment settled into my life. My company continued its upward trajectory, a testament to the dedication of my team and the innovative spirit that permeated our work. However, my relentless drive to succeed began to mellow, replaced by a greater appreciation for the quieter aspects of existence. I learned to carve out time for friendships, for exploring new corners of the world, and for indulging in long-neglected hobbies. My relationship with my mother blossomed into something warm and trusting, the years of estrangement fading into a shared understanding. Kevin, too, found his footing. He remained with my company, his initial awkwardness replaced by a quiet competence. Our interactions were largely professional, but beneath the surface, I sensed a genuine gratitude for the second chance I had offered. One afternoon, Sarah posed a question that had rarely crossed my mind amidst the whirlwind of my professional life. Had I ever considered starting a family? The scars of my upbringing still lingered, making the prospect of such intimacy feel daunting, perhaps even perilous. But Sarah, ever the astute observer of my inner world, gently encouraged me to open myself to the possibility of connection. Eventually, I met Emily. She was a breath of fresh air, a stark contrast to the pragmatic, often cynical world I inhabited. A talented artist with a vibrant spirit and an infectious laugh, she saw beyond the layers of success and ambition I had built around myself. With Emily, I felt a sense of ease and security I had never known. Our relationship unfolded organically, each shared moment deepening my affection. It wasn't long before I found myself down on one knee, a simple ring in my hand, asking her to share her life with me. Her joyful yes echoed the quiet happiness that had begun to bloom within me. Our wedding was a small, intimate affair, attended by close friends and the few members of my extended family with whom I had reconnected. Even my mother was there, a genuine smile gracing her lips, a far cry from the strained expressions of years past. In that moment, surrounded by love and warmth, I felt a profound sense of peace. Not the hollow satisfaction of revenge, nor the fleeting high of wealth, but a deep-seated contentment rooted in genuine human connection. My journey, it seemed, was no longer solely about overcoming adversity, but about embracing the beauty of shared life. In the years that followed, a sense of quiet contentment settled into my life. My company continued its upward trajectory, a testament to the dedication of my team and the innovative spirit that permeated our work. However, my relentless drive to succeed began to mellow, replaced by a greater appreciation for the quieter aspects of existence. I learned to carve out time for friendships, for exploring new corners of the world, and for indulging in long-neglected hobbies. My relationship with my mother blossomed into something warm and trusting, the years of estrangement fading into a shared understanding. Kevin, too, found his footing. He remained with my company, his initial awkwardness replaced by a quiet competence. Our interactions were largely professional, but beneath the surface, I sensed a genuine gratitude for the second chance I had offered. One afternoon, Sarah posed a question that had rarely crossed my mind amidst the whirlwind of my professional life. Had I ever considered starting a family? The scars of my upbringing still lingered, making the prospect of such intimacy feel daunting, perhaps even perilous. But Sarah, ever the astute observer of my inner world, gently encouraged me to open myself to the possibility of connection. Eventually, I met Emily. She was a breath of fresh air, a stark contrast to the pragmatic, often cynical world I inhabited. A talented artist with a vibrant spirit and an infectious laugh, she saw beyond the layers of success and ambition I had built around myself. With Emily, I felt a sense of ease and security I had never known. Our relationship unfolded organically, each shared moment deepening my affection. It wasn't long before I found myself down on one knee, a simple ring in my hand, asking her to share her life with me. Her joyful yes echoed the quiet happiness that had begun to bloom within me. Our wedding was a small, intimate affair, attended by close friends and the few members of my extended family with whom I had reconnected. Even my mother was there, a genuine smile gracing her lips, a far cry from the strained expressions of years past. In that moment, surrounded by love and warmth, I felt a profound sense of peace. Not the hollow satisfaction of revenge, nor the fleeting high of wealth, but a deep-seated contentment rooted in genuine human connection. My journey, it seemed, was no longer solely about overcoming adversity, but about embracing the beauty of shared life. My life with Emily unfolded like a beautiful painting, each day a new stroke of color on the canvas of our shared existence. Her artistic passion infused our home with creativity and warmth, while her unwavering belief in me provided a constant source of strength. We traveled extensively, exploring hidden gems and vibrant cities, our shared adventures weaving a rich tapestry of memories. While my company continued to thrive, my priorities had subtly shifted. The relentless pursuit of growth took a back seat to the quiet joy of our life together. Evenings were spent not in boardrooms, but sharing stories, laughter, and the simple comfort of each other's presence. In time, our family grew with the arrival of our children, first a son, then a daughter. Their laughter echoing through our home filled a void I hadn't even realized existed. I often found myself reflecting on my own solitary childhood, the stark contrast fueling my determination to create a haven of love and support for my own kids. My relationship with my mother continued its slow but steady healing. She became a frequent visitor, her interactions with her grandchildren softening the edges of her past sternness. Kevin, too, became a peripheral but accepted part of our extended family, a quiet presence at holiday gatherings, his demeanor humbled by his past missteps. We rarely spoke of the years of conflict, an unspoken understanding having settled between us. One afternoon, a quiet contemplation led me to consider my journey, from the discarded teenager fueled by resentment to the man I had become, a successful entrepreneur, a loving husband, and a devoted father. The trials I had endured, I realized, had not been in vain. They had forged my resilience, clarified my values, and ultimately guided me toward a life richer and more meaningful than I could have ever imagined in those dark early days. The idea of sharing my story began to take root, not out of a desire for validation, but with the hope that it might offer solace or inspiration to others navigating their own difficult paths. As the years continued their gentle march, my company evolved, embracing new technologies and expanding its reach under the capable leadership of a team I had come to trust implicitly. I found myself stepping back from the day-to-day operations, allowing myself more time for personal pursuits and the simple joys of family life. Emily and I embarked on more leisurely travels, savoring each shared experience. My connection with my mother deepened, evolving into a genuine friendship. We spoke frequently, sharing our thoughts and reflections on life. Kevin, having found a measure of professional success within my company, seemed to have found a quiet peace. While our interactions remained somewhat reserved, a mutual respect had clearly taken root. One evening, surrounded by my children and their growing families, a profound sense of gratitude washed over me. The journey had been arduous, marked by pain and betrayal, but it had ultimately led me to this moment, a life filled with love, connection, and a quiet sense of fulfillment. In that moment, I understood that my story wasn't solely about overcoming adversity or achieving financial success. It was about the transformative power of forgiveness, the enduring strength of the human spirit, and the profound importance of the bonds of family, however unconventional those bonds might become. Time, the great leveler, continued its relentless flow. Our grandchildren blossomed, their youthful energy and burgeoning personalities a constant source of delight. Emily and I settled into a comfortable rhythm, our days filled with quiet companionship and the simple pleasures of a life well lived. My company thrived under the guidance of a new generation, their innovative ideas propelling it to even greater heights. I watched their progress with a quiet pride, knowing that I had built something that would endure. My relationships with my extended family, those who had chosen to bridge the divide, remained warm and supportive. Even with my father, in his final years, a fragile peace had been reached, a quiet acknowledgement of shared history, however flawed. Kevin, too, had found his niche, his initial resentment replaced by a quiet humility. One sun-drenched afternoon, sitting in our garden, surrounded by the vibrant colors of blooming flowers, I found myself reflecting on the tapestry of my life. The threads of pain and loss were undeniably there, but they were interwoven with threads of resilience, love, and unexpected grace. I had learned that true wealth wasn't measured in dollars, but in the richness of human connection and the quiet satisfaction of living a life guided by one's own values. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the lawn, I felt a profound sense of peace. The cycle of revenge had given way to a legacy of something far more enduring. As the years gently accumulated, the sharp edges of those early hardships began to soften, the memories fading into a more muted hue, overshadowed by the vibrant tapestry of my life with Emily and the burgeoning families of our children. Watching our grandchildren grow, each one carving their own unique path, filled me with a quiet sense of fulfillment, a feeling of the circle of life gently turning. Emily remained my steadfast anchor, her artistic spirit continuing to illuminate our world with beauty and grace. We found joy in the simple rhythms of life, shared mornings, quiet evenings, and the comfortable silence of two souls deeply intertwined. Our children, now navigating their own careers and families, often returned to our home, their laughter and the excited chatter of their children filling the rooms with a vibrant energy that belied the passage of time. Kevin, too, had found a measure of contentment. While our interactions remained infrequent, a quiet understanding existed between us, a silent acknowledgement of the shared, complicated history that bound us. My memories of my mother evolved, the initial bitterness giving way to a more nuanced understanding of the complexities that had shaped her. Time, it seemed, had a way of smoothing even the roughest edges. I often found myself reflecting on the stark contrast between the lonely, uncertain teenager I once was and the life I now shared, a life brimming with love and connection. The journey had been long and arduous, but the destination, I realized, was more rewarding than I could have ever imagined in those bleak early days. The act of letting go of the need for retribution had, paradoxically, opened the door to a far deeper and more lasting form of personal peace. As the years gently accumulated, the sharp edges of those early hardships began to soften, the memories fading into a more muted hue, overshadowed by the vibrant tapestry of my life with Emily and the burgeoning families of our children. Watching our grandchildren grow, each one carving their own unique path, filled me with a quiet sense of fulfillment, a feeling of the circle of life gently turning. Emily remained my steadfast anchor, her artistic spirit continuing to illuminate our world with beauty and grace. We found joy in the simple rhythms of life, shared mornings, quiet evenings, and the comfortable silence of two souls deeply intertwined. Our children, now navigating their own careers and families, often return to our home, their laughter and the excited chatter of their children filling the rooms with a vibrant energy that belied the passage of time. Kevin, too, had found a measure of contentment. While our interactions remained infrequent, a quiet understanding existed between us, a silent acknowledgement of the shared, complicated history that bound us. My memories of my mother evolved, the initial bitterness giving way to a more nuanced understanding of the complexities that had shaped her. Time, it seemed, had a way of smoothing even the roughest edges. I often found myself reflecting on the stark contrast between the lonely, uncertain teenager I once was and the life I now shared, a life brimming with love and connection. The journey had been long and arduous, but the destination, I realized, was more rewarding than I could have ever imagined in those bleak early days. The act of letting go of the need for retribution had, paradoxically, opened the door to a far deeper and more lasting form of personal peace. With the passage of time, a growing desire to share the lessons I had learned began to take root. I started accepting invitations to speak at universities and entrepreneurial gatherings, recounting my journey and offering insights gleaned from both the triumphs and the tribulations. I found a particular resonance with young, ambitious individuals, their eagerness to make their mark on the world mirroring the drive that had once consumed me. Emily, with her innate empathy and artistic sensibilities, often joined me, offering a different perspective, emphasizing the importance of creativity and human connection in a world often driven by profit. Together, we established a foundation aimed at supporting aspiring entrepreneurs from disadvantaged backgrounds, providing mentorship, seed funding, and access to resources they might otherwise lack. I firmly believed that opportunity should not be dictated by circumstance. Our children, too, embraced the spirit of giving back, each finding their own ways to contribute to causes they believed in. Kevin, somewhat surprisingly, became involved in local community initiatives, quietly dedicating his time to projects aimed at helping at-risk youth. It seemed that the years had indeed fostered a genuine transformation. As I watched the next generation navigate their own challenges and triumphs, I felt a profound sense of hope for the future. The cycle of bitterness had been broken, replaced by a legacy of compassion and a commitment to making a positive impact. The story that had once been defined by pain and the pursuit of revenge had evolved into something far more meaningful, a testament to resilience, the power of forgiveness, and the enduring strength of the human spirit to overcome adversity and build a life filled with purpose. As the years continued their gentle ebb and flow, my focus increasingly shifted from the external markers of success to the internal landscape of my life. While my company remained a thriving entity, my personal satisfaction became more deeply rooted in the quality of my relationships, the joy of creative pursuits, and the quiet fulfillment of giving back. Emily and I found immense pleasure in supporting local arts initiatives, her artistic connections opening doors to a vibrant community of creators. We often hosted gatherings at our home, filled with music, laughter, and the lively discussions that arose from diverse perspectives. Our children, now firmly established in their own lives, continued to be a source of immense pride, their values reflecting the principles we had strived to instill. Kevin, in his own unassuming way, became a steadfast presence in our extended family, his quiet demeanor often offering a grounding counterpoint to the more boisterous dynamics. The sharp edges of the past had truly softened, replaced by a comfortable understanding. I often found myself reflecting on the unexpected twists and turns my life had taken, the way that pain had ultimately paved the way for profound growth. The desire for retribution, once a burning ember, had long since cooled, replaced by a quiet sense of gratitude for the life I had built. The narrative of my life, I realized, was not defined by the darkness I had overcome, but by the light I had chosen to embrace. With the passage of time, the inevitable realities of aging began to gently assert themselves. While my mind remained sharp and my spirit undimmed, the physical vigor of my younger years gradually receded. Emily and I navigated this new chapter with characteristic grace and unwavering mutual support, finding new joys in quieter pursuits and cherishing the simple act of being together. Our children, now pillars of their own families, became even more attentive, their visits a source of immense comfort. Our grandchildren, now young adults, brought a fresh perspective and a youthful energy that kept us feeling connected to the ever-evolving world. Kevin, too, entered this later stage of life with a newfound serenity, his occasional visits marked by a quiet camaraderie. The weight of the past seemed to have finally lifted, replaced by a gentle acceptance of what had been. As I looked back over the long arc of my life, I felt a profound sense of peace. The initial fury and the subsequent drive for success had ultimately led me to a place of quiet gratitude. The story that had begun with a bitter expulsion had culminated in a life rich with love, family, and a deep appreciation for the simple, enduring power of human connection. The pursuit of revenge had ultimately yielded to the quiet triumph of a life well lived, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit.